Is there a market opportunity here? Like, there are so many emerging managers. Everyone wants to leave and start a fund. Like, what is the right to win? And like, what do founders really want? Luck is what happens when you're prepared for opportunity. Part of my inspiration for starting Type really came down to my conversations with founders. We want to be that first call for founders. The way that we can earn that right is by doing whatever we possibly can to show up for founders.
Welcome to Trailblazers, the podcast where we sit down with contrarian tech leaders who found conventional success in unconventional ways. So today on the show, I am so excited to be joined by Terri Burns. Terri is the founder of Type Capital, an early-stage venture firm focused on being the first check for ambitious founders at pre-seed and seed. Most recently, she was a partner at GV, Google Ventures, for those who don't know, where she made history as the firm's youngest partner and its first ever Black female partner, with a focus on digital consumer and emerging technology. During her time at GV, Terri led and supported investments that went on to raise follow-on capital from top-tier firms and achieve meaningful exits, including the social app Hags, which was acquired by Snapchat. She's also an active angel investor and co-founder of an angel collective that has backed companies like Clubhouse, and I think Stitch as well.
Yeah.
Terri's impact extends well beyond investing. She's a Forbes 30 Under 30 awardee for venture capital, a 3-time co-chair of Fortune Magazine's Brainstorm Tech Conference, and a frequent speaker at institutions like Stanford GSB and Harvard Business School. Her work has been featured in publications including Vogue, Fortune, and TechCrunch. Before venture, Terri began her career as an associate product manager at Twitter, studied computer science at NYU, and today serves on NYU's Board of Trustees. Please welcome Terri.
Woo, it's me.
Cheers. That's
Hey.
me. What a bio.
Thanks.
You've done a lot.
I feel like we have some overlap in our bio, though.
You know, it's so funny you say that because as I was reading your bio, prepping for this, I was like, I kind of need to change my bio to be more like Terri's. Because we have a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot of stuff that overlap, and I was like, I like how she said that.
Yeah.
I
Take
think
it.
I need to copy
Steal it.
and take pieces of it.
Throw it into ChatGPT, massage it a little.
Yeah,
do whatever
Erica
you need.
it. You know, take Terri's and add a little Erica spin.
Yeah.
You've done so much, and I'm so excited to get into it. We'll start with an icebreaker.
Okay.
This is just going to get at like the heart of your journey, okay?
Okay.
We talk a lot about hard paths here. And, you know, we glorify a lot of things on Twitter and social and all these amazing accomplishments, but things are not always easy. There have been a lot of hard parts of both our journeys. So I'd love to hear from you. What has been the hardest part so far of your journey? It could be personal, it could be professional, but the stuff that maybe people wouldn't know about you, because there's so much, again, like I said, amazing stuff online, but behind the scenes, it's not always easy.
Yeah. I can name so many things. I mean, I think we were talking about this a little bit before we started filming, but you kind of have to eat a lot of shit as an emerging manager, and it is very, very hard to manage all of the things, like raising a fund, building a portfolio, being that first call for founders, actually having, you know, an operational business that you're trying to build. And so I actually think like day to day, it's actually a lot tougher than our shiny bios might make it seem. I'll give one example of something that has been really challenging for me, that most people don't know. So when I started at Google Ventures, this was back in 2017, I was a junior partner, or not even partner yet. I was just a junior investor on the team. And about 6 months into my tenure at Google Ventures, I started getting this like numbness and tingly sort of pain in my hands. Long story short, I got diagnosed with cubital tunnel, which is kind of like a version of carpal tunnel, but very, very severely. So since 2017, I literally have not been able to sit in front of my laptop and type for more than 5 minutes without getting numb, pain, tingliness, numbness in my hands. I've had bilateral surgery on both of my hands to try and solve this. It has not been solved. I still continue to have these symptoms. So I say all of this to say that my entire tenure at GV, leaving, starting Type Capital, all the investments, being on the board of NYU, everything that you've named, I have had to be very, very creative and use a lot of voice to text. I'm constantly like dipping into private rooms so that I can dictate, make calls, not be on my laptop, in order to like build this business and do all of these investments. And so everything that I have done has been like working around this physical ailment that most people don't know that I have.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that here. I really appreciate it. And I can only imagine what that's like when you're early in your career, you accomplish so many things so early and you like don't want people to find out. Like, was this something that you were open about with your GV team, or were you kind of like low-key dipping into other rooms and trying to be secretive about it? Because if it were me,
Yeah.
with time, with confidence, you can talk about it. But in the beginning, I would imagine you're like, what if it's really bad? What if they're not going to promote me? What if?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I definitely tried to be secretive about it for a really long time. It was just kind of like doing stuff on my own, trying to work around it. Eventually, my doctors basically said, these symptoms only flare when you are in front of a laptop. And I studied computer science. I was at NYU for many years. I worked as a product manager at Twitter before I got to GV. I basically spent probably 6 years literally crouched in front of a computer, just like coding and typing all day, every day. And, bodies are different. Like clearly my body did not love that. And so, when I started getting the symptoms, I was just trying to work around it for a really long period of time. I then got this advice that I just need to take a break, right? Like if I just don't use any devices for a couple of months, let's see what happens. So I actually ended up going on medical leave, like pretty early at GV. And again, this was in the first year that I was there. So imagine I was new, I was hungry, I was deeply ambitious. I hadn't really built that rapport with my colleagues yet. And it was probably to this day, like one of the scariest things I had to do to go to my boss and say, and it's also like not physical or not visible, right? And so I was like, are they even going to believe me? Like, are they just going to think that I'm like making something up? Tried to hide it, couldn't, got that advice from my doctors, ended up having an amazing conversation with my boss at the time who was super understanding. I went on leave for a couple weeks. It didn't work. And so then I just had to get creative and we have since figured it out. But yeah, it was super, super hard and scary. And I absolutely tried to hide it for a period of time.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, here's the bright side is you probably know a lot about the different voice AI tools that
totally.
I was investing in. You probably get like really detailed advice on what's like legit and what's not.
I mean, for sure. I mean, everyone's using Flow now. Do you use Flow?
I don't use Flow, but I know Whisper. Everyone's
Yeah, exactly,
Flow, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I've like tried all of them. I think the Flow is amazing. That's the one that I use right now. But I will say the irony too is that my firm is now called Type Capital.
Okay, so I was going to ask you this.
Yeah, isn't that so funny?
Yeah. But is that intentional? We're like Type Capital, but we don't type that much?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like an ode to a number of different things, right? So when I was thinking about what I wanted to name my firm, I really wanted something that spoke to how we historically have interacted with technology. And when I think about how I personally historically have interacted with technology, of course, that's been through typing. That's been the case for many people since the invention of the typewriter. And that is starting to evolve, right? When we think about different form factors, when we think about voice, when we think about different types of hardware, there's a lot of interesting percolating tools and products that are emerging in the early consumer landscape. And so I love this idea of paying homage to like what we once did and how it's evolving. And that obviously speaks to my own story as well, because I once interacted with my devices in a very specific way, and that has evolved over time.
It's such a good story. I mean, I think typing too, when I think of typewriters, I think of like early revolutionaries that like talked about things that no one else was talking about. I think now the most powerful thing you can do is like write your thoughts into a really incredible piece. Like it's not just the software that's being written and created, but it's also like the words and like
Totally.
the language. And the typewriter is both creating software and also writing and storytelling, which I feel like is something you're really good at and something that, at least from my own research and getting to know you, all your founders are good at.
Totally.
It's like they know how to, they're not only like technical, but they can also storytell really well.
Absolutely. I mean, you have a whole like content strategy, right? Like
You do. That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. I mean, you think a lot about like how to tell people not just what you're building in your product and all of that, but I think that we're very much in this era of building in public, right? And like showing people what it means to create something from the ground up. And to do that really effectively and to do that very authentically, I think is very challenging. And writing, I think, is the cornerstone of that. And you're exactly right. From the Industrial Revolution, thinking about the advent of technology and how things have really shifted over time. I think a lot about the first typists, right? Like the early literal type writers back in the day. Oftentimes these were women. These were people doing what was viewed as very menial administrative work. And that was literally the early foundations for what is now modern day software. And so I think that history is really sick.
So sick. And so much of our business, I always say this, it's like more philosophical than financial, like especially at early stage. And to be able to like be philosophical and like future predict, you also have to like look at history.
Totally.
And I think it's so cool to have a firm name that is so grounded in the past.
Yeah.
Because it is there's a lot of analogies you can talk about for the future.
I think you have to look at the past to understand the future. And I don't know. I'm a big reader, and I always kind of joke that, like, I think most nonfiction books could probably be an article, with the exception of history books, right? Like, I think that biology and history, or biographies and history and understanding what once was is a really good way to think about what will be in the future.
Totally. Okay, so this is really funny. When we were prepping for this, we send all our classic, like, hey, like, give me your bio, what should we talk about, whatever. And Terri sent a list of books, speaking of you being such a reader. And you were like, yeah, we can talk about some of these. And I was like, okay, first of all, that's, like, brilliant. And I need to have, like, my list of books curated because it's so fun to talk about what you just read. And you were like, let me know if we read any of these overlapping. And I'm like, I've read none of these books.
I noticed you didn't respond.
No, I was like, yeah, we've got about 0% overlap in our book choice, but
that's so funny.
I thought it was such a great idea to, like, list out your books. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what do you like to read? You're such a reader. I would imagine it's also something that doesn't obviously affect your hands.
Totally.
Right? You can use your eyes and you can think. So I imagine you do it a lot. Tell me more about, like, the genres of books. I mean, I'll say the titles, like, I have them right here. They all sound so interesting. And there's, like, maybe, like, the top 3 with, like, Everflames sound a little bit more like...
Yeah.
Like, is it giving romance fiction?
We're getting a little romantasy in here.
Romantasy, I know.
Have to.
I was gonna say, but, like, I looked at this list and I was like, this girl has variety.
Yeah,
like, we got
she
Winston,
has range.
Romantasy, and then we've got, like, Winston Churchill biography. Like,
so
we really
good.
got a flat Earth situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you like to read?
Good question. So yeah, I'm a huge reader. I would say that I definitely have range, as you have observed. I love fiction, which I think is common for, like, younger readers. I think that there's been a lot of data as well around women who tend to read more fiction. Kind of similar to what we were just saying about storytelling and understanding the way that the world works. I think that fiction is a really incredible way of imagining. And so much of our job as investors is to be able to imagine what could be. So I love fiction, and it's fun. So yeah, we have some romantasy in there. I also think that especially, part of our thesis at Type Capital is to invest in the next generation of founders and the next generation of consumers. When you think about book talk, when you think about like what people are consuming and just like what people have these just like deeply, deeply ravenous interest in, fiction is a really good way of understanding that. So definitely the romantasy. I already mentioned kind of biographies, history. The Winston Churchill biography was so good. Winston Churchill, I mean, no one's really sleeping on Winston Churchill.
I feel like we are all aware Winston Churchill is, like, a big guy. I love the biographies that are more like the underground, like, like the wife of whatever, like person who you didn't know was behind the thing that you love.
Totally. Okay, so one of the books that I read was an autobiography called The Rising. Okay. It came out last year. It's written by one of the board members, one of my fellow board members at NYU, and he's a big real estate mogul, and he actually was not quite the owner. He was the leaseholder of the World Trade Center, which he got the keys to just a couple of months before 9/11. And so the whole story is about his journey as an entrepreneur building his business as a real estate mogul and the story of rebuilding the World Trade Center in the wake of 9/11. And so that was a really fascinating story, of course, for all of the reasons. I highly recommend it. But it also is like this interesting lesson of what it means to build, what it means to create through adversity, what it means to own something that is yours, but also is not yours at the same time. Super fascinating.
And especially as a New Yorker, I feel like we all have to read that. Like, there's so much history behind these, like, world events that have happened here that I feel like I don't know well enough. I know the basics,
totally,
but I don't always know the whole story. Awesome. Okay, well, I want to get into your background a little bit. Well, we'll talk more about Type in a second, but, one of your big headlines, and I think this is when I first found out who you were, was I must have read some article that said Google promotes youngest partner ever, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think this was probably when I was like an operator and I wasn't yet in venture. And I remember like, what a badass. Talk to me about what you think contributed to you becoming the youngest ever partner at Google Ventures. I guess we'll call it GV because I'm rebranded. I'll follow instructions. What do you think contributed to that? And, why do you think there's also not so many younger partners across the board? Like, I think this happened for you at 26, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So talk to me about that journey of like getting promoted to partner and, the factors that contributed to that crazy accomplishment.
So my mom always says that phrase, luck is what happens when you're prepared for opportunity. And I think that like, I hold that very dear, and I think that that's been very true for my career to date. Really breaking that down, that means working hard, being prepared, being strategic, like doing all of the things that you in like a true meritocratic society have to do. And then at the same time, the stars have to align a little bit. And the case for me at GV, the work that was done was just all of the fundamental work that goes into being an investor. So when I joined at the time, I didn't even have aspirations of getting into venture when I got to GV. I was a product manager at Twitter, and I had this mentor who happened to be at GV at the time. He was a longtime product manager who had switched over to the venture side. He and I connected via Twitter. We like DM'd each other one day, and I was like, let's get coffee. And so he was a mentor of mine, and I would talk about some of the things I was building at Twitter and ask for his advice. And one day he and I happened to get coffee, and he said to me, hey, GV's actually looking to hire some junior investors on the team. And we're specifically looking for people who are technical, who understand product, and who have a differentiated network and perspective that they can bring.
That's you.
That was me. That was me.
That's you. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about venture at the time. And I was like, this sounds kind of interesting. I'm happy to continue and proceed with the process. And so I went through the process. I did like 10 interviews, whatever. I ended up getting the job. And I basically just did not only what was asked of me, but I also just really let my curiosity lead me wherever I wanted to go. I remember hosting events really early on with other associates that were like in the region. I was living in the Bay Area at the time. And that was an amazing way to just connect with people at other firms, doing the same thing for founders, doing the same thing for some of the previous product managers that I had known at different companies, and just kind of keeping that flow going. So the thing that really tipped the scales for me was Hags. Actually, you mentioned
Soraya, who I know, by the way.
Soraya's amazing.
Soraya.
Yeah. No, all good. She's a really good friend of mine. And long story short, we ended up doing that deal. I met her. She had gone super viral on Twitter. We reached out. She had this amazing vision for her company. I decided to do the deal. And at the time, I wasn't a partner. I wasn't actually technically able to deploy capital per the internal rules or whatever. But I did it anyway. Like, I'm a big ask for forgiveness, not permission person. And it was a great, I think, deal for us as a firm. It was a great kind of profile of founder that we were trying to invest more in, like these early stage, younger kind of Gen Z founders, et cetera. I got lucky, going back to this idea of luck is what happens when you're prepared for opportunity, in that I just so happened to have an amazing manager, Dave Municello. He's one of the managing partners at GV. Awesome mentor, still a really great mentor and friend to this day. But he was a huge advocate for me. And at the time, he essentially said, hey, Terri's doing partner level work. She should be a partner. I don't think to this day that I would have gotten promoted to partner so quickly if I didn't have someone so senior that was able to acknowledge and champion me. And I understand that not everyone has that. And so like that combination of doing partner level work before I was partner and having someone to really acknowledge that and champion, me to getting into that role is what led to that outcome.
It's incredible. And I think not everyone gets so lucky in our business to find people that want to really advocate for them. And I think we see a lot, people get promoted to partner sooner than they otherwise would at smaller firms with less bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But I think the reason it got so much buzz and like media attention was because GV is like, everyone knows Google. GV really has this sort of like established top tier vibe to it.
Yeah.
And so for you to be able to break through that mold and figure out how to do great work and have a mentor and really achieve it, it really stood out.
Totally.
Because, we see like smaller firms have junior partners all the time, but for you to do that at such a legendary, large bureaucratic place, it's really incredible. On Trailblazers, we spotlight founders who succeed by doing things differently, not by following the playbook, but by rewriting it. Many of those unconventional builders and the VCs backing them run on Brex because it helps them scale with speed and focus. From smart corporate cards and high-yield banking to AI-powered expense management, Brex gives startups the financial stack they need from day one so they can spend more time building and less time managing back-office operations. More than 30,000 companies, from breakout startups like Anthropic and Cursor to global leaders like DoorDash and Plaid, trust Brex to help them spend smarter and move faster. That's why we, as a venture firm and also the podcast, run on Brex too. Sign up at brex.com/trailblazerspod to get started and claim exclusive rewards. That's brex.com/TRAILBLAZERSPOD. RocketReach is the leading sales and lead intelligence solution trusted by sales, marketing, recruiting, and business development teams to grow their businesses. Whether you're looking for a developer halfway around the world, a C-level executive in New York, or a potential investor in Silicon Valley, we connect you directly. With RocketReach, you can easily access the most comprehensive, accurate compilation of emails and phone numbers on Earth. That puts you in front of the right people faster and backs you up with a database that reaches across industries, markets, and titles, using AI to continually improve the quality of your contacts. With RocketReach, you can reach anyone so you can reach higher. Many of you know I love cold outreach. It's been the root of many of my success so far, and this is the tool that I've used the whole time. Trailblazer listeners get 15% off any plan at rocketreach.co/trailblazers. That's rocketreach.co/trailblazers. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was I was doing some research and I saw that you studied career coaching.
Yes.
And, you don't come across enough VCs who have studied coaching, I gotta just say. Understanding motivation, psychology, all that stuff's really important. So I wanted to ask you, when you're at GV, you're experiencing obviously this hand situation, which we talked about. You are the youngest person ever to be promoted to partner. You have a lot on your plate, trying to do great deals, and you decide, I'm going to go get a career coaching certification. Let's just add another thing on. Why? Tell me more.
No one has ever asked me that question before.
Really?
Like literally ever.
No, I think it's honestly brilliant to do it, but I also know you had so much else going on. I'm just like, tell me why. Tell me how, tell me why.
Well, I would actually love your advice on this. I think part of the reason why people don't ask me about it is because I don't talk about it that much. I mention it to founders as like a resource, whatever, like something that I can do. I also have a great and amazing network of other career coaches that we can pair folks with, do it at discounted prices, etc. But to your point, I have a lot going on. We all have a lot going on. And I'm sure you do this as well. You have to sort of pick and choose what your narratives are going to be and what you're going to like put out in the world so that you don't come off too diluted or like you're doing too much or like you're unfocused, which I actually think is a little bit unfair because we see lots of people out there running multiple businesses and it's totally fine. And I think that we can handle a lot, but sometimes it's a lot for other people to sort of wrap their minds around. So I don't talk about it that much. So people don't ask me about it often. So I appreciate you asking. The reason why I decided to get my coaching certification was twofold. One, I actually worked with a coach. And part of the reason why I did that was you kind of, hit it head on. I was navigating a lot of just like ambition and work and trying to build this career. And I was navigating this hand situation and it was a lot. And I was like, I feel like I could use some objective, consistent, reliable tips and tricks and tools via a coach. So I found a coach, worked with her. She was absolutely amazing. And then I realized that with the founders that I was working with, if you're a good investor, you are both a provider of capital and you are a therapist, right? Like I talk a lot about Type Capital and I say that our entire focus, our entire ethos and goal is to be the first call for the next generation of founders. And the first call means when something amazing happens, when something terrible happens, when something confusing happens, like we want to be that first call. And there are a lot of different ways that you can really earn that right. And part of that is by knowing how to support and help navigate and to really enable founders to do the best, most meaningful work, not just of their careers, but of their lives. And so having experienced coaching, having realized that founders really needed a lot of support, I figured, why don't I go ahead and like actually learn how to do this? At the time, because I was at GV, Google also had this education stipend. And so getting a coaching certification is not cheap.
How much is it? Is it like 10 grand?
It's like, it depends on the place that you go to, but it can range from like 10 to 15K.
Yeah.
Which when, I was like 24 and
It's a lot.
I had $180,000 of student loans because I went to NYU. Like, there was a lot going on at the time. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I was able to get this education stipend from Google, and then I got my coaching certification.
Wow. And how much work was it? Was it, hour a week, 5 hours a week? Did you need to take on clients? Like, I think of like the classic, when you get like your PA or nursing degrees, you need to have a certain amount of clients.
Yeah.
Or, therapy, MFT, you need to have clients. What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty intensive. So it was a 9-month program. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was something like a couple of virtual classes a week. And then every 6 weeks we would do these weekend-long in-person intensives. And so it was like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday in person. And we had this whole cohort of people from all walks of life. We had some people who were therapists. We had some people who worked in tech. We had some people who, worked in sales and they wanted to do a complete career transition. Like, it was a pretty wide range of people. But over that 9-month period, we had those meetings, those intensives, and then we had to do, I don't know, something like 40 or 50 hours of like true client work. So you had to find clients, you had to work with them, you had to document all of that, and you had to do an exam at the end. Like, it was a pretty robust process. I will say that having gone through that process really taught me how to hold space for people, how to push people to think creatively. And I think, we all romanticize venture. I think we romanticize entrepreneurship. These are hard jobs, right? Like, if you're doing it the right way, and the right way doesn't even necessarily mean that you're going to have, the utmost success, but it really means that you're giving yourself the full shot and opportunity for success. There's so much that shows up both personally and professionally when you're trying to build anything. And so being able to hold space and create an opportunity for people just to push themselves, again, personally and professionally, is a skill set that I think you're probably right. Like, more VCs need. I mean, even going back to this idea of like having this amazing mentor that I had when I was at GV, mentorship doesn't really exist in venture. Coaching doesn't really exist in venture. Like, it's a pretty, I think we have a lot of room to grow as an industry. And so I kind of recognize that would be a unique kind of edge that I could have.
And I could see that being something that you really crush with the firm. Like, I even think we talk about VCs maybe needing a little bit more coaching certification or coaching experience. A lot more. We could all be better. But I also think founders of like early stage companies, I mean, I'm maybe this is like a little fresh in my mind. I've been dealing with this one founder. They're having some co-founder conflict issues. And, there's another founder I'm working with where they're scaling their team and things are going well, but there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So I wonder too, even like as Type Capital grows, if that can be really like a cool niche for you guys to have these like emotionally aware people that are like, wow, like not only is Terri a great investor, not only do I respect her like super technical background, but also like love that she cares about like EQ and coaching and building great teams and culture and all that stuff, and just planting a seed for you.
No, I think it's a really, really good idea. I mean, right now we basically have this kind of internal founder portal. I imagine you might have something similar of just like perks and tips and tricks and stuff that we offer our founders. And I think right now it's very much leaning into this network of amazing coaches that I have, right? Like, you can, have coaching sessions with myself, Terri Burns. You can also, if you would prefer to work with these other people, here are bios, here are discounted rates, yada, yada. But what does it look like to maybe integrate that even more deeply into the firm and into our ethos? I think a lot about these operational venture models, right? Where everyone's trying to find a way to distinguish themselves and figure out how you can really ingrain yourself within your portfolio companies such that you're helpful. I think coaching could be a good path there.
It could be, and I think it would attract the right type of founder.
Yeah.
Like, I'm increasingly convinced that, like, I know everyone says, oh, you can be like a narcissist, you can be an asshole and build great companies, and there's a bit of that. Like, you can definitely point to examples of people who have that profile, but I think more often than not, having incredible EQ, being a great leader, being a great mentor, being able to actually recruit people you've worked with before because they want to work with you again.
Yeah.
These are all traits that actually really separate like good and great founders. And so I don't know, I think that would also just like selfishly as a VC, I'm like, I want to see people in your portfolio that have that,
Totally.
So anyway, something to think about. Let's get into Type.
Yes.
So you're at GV, you are crushing it. You're doing great deals. Partiful, which I think maybe hinted at in the bio, maybe we didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't
was
think
a
so.
deal. Okay, tell me about Partiful quickly, and then we'll get into leaving to do Type.
Cool. Okay, so Partiful's amazing. I came across the product 2020 or 2021. It was pretty early, and I came across the product organically. My friend actually was hosting a party at my place because I have a pretty nice place. We have a backyard. She wanted to host like a backyard party.
Ooh.
And she was like, hey, I'm going to send out invites. I'm going to try this new thing called Purtiful. And as soon as I used it, I knew that there was something special. Like the second I used it, I was like, I need to find out who these founders are. We are a generalist firm. We'll talk more about that in a second, but we look at a little bit of everything. But part of our consumer thesis in particular really lands around utility and taste, right? Like, are you actually solving a problem? Are you actually making people's lives easier? And are you well designed? Are you interesting? Are you cool? Are you something that, you know, the book talkers of the world would want to use? And so with that in mind, you know, Purtiful immediately sort of checked those boxes. I managed to get an intro to the founders, and then I proceeded to just spend a ton of time with them over the next couple of months. And that was like giving them product feedback, understanding their vision. I think that what Shreya and Joy, the co-founders, really had that I loved was, you know, there's a world where something like Purtiful is a lifestyle business. It's a really awesome product that kind of exists as a feature. You know, maybe they sell to some company in the next couple of years and they can sort of ride off into the sunset. And from day one, both Shreya and Joy were very clear, like, our aspiration is to be a public company. We deserve to be a public company. This is our initial go-to-market. Here are all of the things that we're going to build and expand and create in order to see that vision come through. And it was so ambitious and so clear, and they very, very clearly had this innate product sense that was really impressive to me. I got really excited about it. And so over the course of those couple of months, we did, you know, a little bit more getting to know each other. We did the diligence process, and I decided to move super quickly and preempt the round. They had been thinking about raising sometime soon, and I knew very early on that I wanted to make it happen. So we actually co-hosted an event, of course, hosted on Purtiful at my house. We had like a founder night. And at the end of the night, I printed out the term sheet. I already had it ready to go. Once everyone left, I like slid the term sheet over to them and was like, I would love to lead your next round. That kicked off this feeding frenzy. A bunch of people wanted to invest, and ultimately, I think because of the thoughtfulness that we had built over, you know, a number of months and the conviction that we had to be those first movers, we ended up winning the round and leading the deal.
I love it. And I also think because you have such a pulse, I mean, we keep bringing it up with like this like book talk customer, like you have such a pulse on who that is. You yourself, I would imagine, associate somewhat with that kind of cool, fresh, you know, customer, customer, that they were excited to probably work with you too, because you understood. I mean, this is part of the, like, being the youngest ever partner at GV is like, you are one of the people that they are trying to go after. And instead of being, you know, a 50-year-old male who's like, I'm sure lovely, but maybe isn't actively using Purtiful to plan all their social events, it's much more fun and exciting to have someone like you know, like on their board or leading their round or whatever it is.
Totally. And I'll say, you know, all the respect in the world, there was a lot of education that had to happen internally at the time to kind of get some of the partners in my orbit to really understand, okay, why is this compelling? Like, why are we doing this deal? We, of course, got there, but I think that the process took a little bit longer than it would have had I been, you know, deploying via type capital, right, at that point in time. And that was a dynamic that I was really aware of. And the other thing that I'll say is, you know, I'm technically a millennial. I'm a young millennial, kind of cuspy. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's something very, very unique for people that are on the cusp, like, whatever, 28 to 32-ish, right? Because you're not squarely like super young 16-year-old Gen Z, and you're also not like an older millennial, where when you think about like this emerging consumer, you kind of are them, right? Like you get it, you're internet native, you're always on your phone, whatever, but you're also a little bit outside of it. And I think that having that 1 foot in, 1 foot out perspective kind of gives that empathy, but also objective sort of view to be able to really make great investments. And so that's also part of our thesis when we think about investing in the next generation of consumers and founders, and why we are in a unique position to do that effectively.
Totally. Flex up and flex down. It's funny now that you say that. So I too am a cuspy cuspy VC on both generations, a lot of the best investors that I feel like have a good grasp on the consumer are actually in that range.
Totally.
Now that you're saying it, it's
everyone should just deploy and invest through us.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
No, it's true. But I do think, right, like there's something about that 1 foot in, 1 foot out that I think is really compelling.
Totally. And you have authority over the younger generations, or like a fresh perspective on the older, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about leaving GV to start Type.
Yeah.
I know a lot of stuff is still sort of in stealth for you guys. That's the beauty of being an emerging manager. Some stuff you can say.
2026. This is going to be the year.
This is the year.
Everyone's going to learn all the things. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So there's some stuff you can say, but just so everyone knows, there's some stuff you just cannot say, which is so fair, and we respect that. But what can you tell us? I mean, obviously everyone is so excited. I know some stuff behind the scenes, but tell me more about Type, why you wanted to start it, and the gap you saw in the VC firm landscape to begin it.
Totally. So maybe let's start with the VC landscape, and I would love to hear, I mean, I know kind of high level some of your thoughts, but things have shifted a lot, in the last 5 years. And I think we all know that we've seen a huge concentration of capital and a number of really big players, and I think that those players have a role in the market. I think part of my inspiration for starting Type really came down to my conversations with founders. And yes, I had a little bit of this, I could probably move faster if I were on my own, or there's certain things that I wanted to invest in that I feel like I could not have with previous, in my previous role. But really it was like, is there a market opportunity here? Like there are so many emerging managers. Everyone wants to leave and start a fund. Like what is the right to win? And like, what do founders really want? And in my conversations with founders, especially the sophisticated founders, they started saying, sure, I want the Thrive, the Sequoia, the Andreessen on my cap table. I want, the institutional, the large, the whatever. But then they're also saying, I also want the Type on my cap table, and the Park Ranger on my cap table, and the you name it on my cap table. Because they realize, hey, look, I need people that are in the trenches with me. I need someone who's going to pick up the phone when I call. I need someone that is equally incentivized to let me win, because I'm not just one piece in a huge puzzle, but I'm one piece in a smaller puzzle that is also trying to grow. And I also just want people on my cap table that are real people that I like talking to, that are my friends, right? It's true. When founders think about like, who do I want on my cap table? Again, it's that like, who can write the biggest check? Who's the institutional name? Who will help me look, mature for the next round? Who do I like? Who is the person who can work really, really hard for me, frankly, for relatively cheap, right? Like, I think that emerging managers oftentimes have smaller check sizes, but like, we're in it with them. We can work a lot harder, and we're just like cool and fun. And so when I realized that founders were really looking for that, and I think increasingly looking for that, again, in part because there are so many more emerging managers, I think founders started to understand that more and have a little bit more respect, frankly, for emerging managers. That's what got me really excited to start Type.
Totally. There's also the LP side of things, which we didn't mention, but it's important to note that like financially, the returns look very different for those bigger firms versus the smaller firms. So I think a lot of people, they start the firm too for the financial upside. How was that playing into your decision? Like, there's a lot of founders that say, don't do venture. If you want to make money, there's a million other ways that you can make a quick buck. But there's also the reality of like being a partner at a giant firm with a slice of carry versus making your own big swing. I'd love to ask you, like, how big of a financial swing was it? Or was it truly the like, I want to be this role in the ecosystem with founders, and that's what drives me?
Definitely a financial swing. I am very financially motivated. And so I think a lot about
we like money.
We love money. Like,
yep.
What can make me the most money? I think you used the phrase like quick buck.
Yeah.
Venture is definitely not the place for a quick buck. If you do this job well over a period of time, you can make a fuck ton of money. Can I swear?
Yeah. Go for it.
And that's very compelling to me, right? Like, I think a lot about brick by brick, right? Like, what might this look like 10 years from now? Who cares what it looks like tomorrow? And I think you have to kind of have that mindset in order to survive being an emerging manager, because I think that it's really hard. In terms of the trade-off from GV, GV had large funds. I don't think I can say exactly how much, but you got a thin slice of a very, very large pie that takes a really, really long time to return, much longer than an emerging manager fund that is, oftentimes much, much smaller than, the multiple billions, I think I can say, that's being managed in a much larger entity. And so for me, the trade-off was really, longer term, but not quite as long as if I stayed at GV, what would that financial outcome look like? Definitely higher as an emerging manager. Short term, in terms of cash in my bank account, way lower, right?
I know it well. I know it well.
Like these management fees are not like if you want to, be living, your summers in Paris or whatever, you're not going to be doing that for management fees from your like tiny, first fund.
Shout out to our sponsors for this podcast. Thank you.
Shout out to all sponsors everywhere.
Sponsors of emerging managers.
No, seriously. It actually is. I mean, it's really smart for them because it's good lead gen, but like all of the dinners that we host, even like we have like a small, not like public like type capital like merch shop sponsored, like every single thing that we have done thus far that we can get sponsored, and it really makes a difference when you're like in the early stages. So anyway, to succinctly answer your question, long term my prospects I think are much higher. That's like my personal assessment. Short term, we're getting creative. We're getting creative day to day, which I think is okay.
Totally fine. Listen, now's the time to take the risk. That's what I say.
Exactly.
So to your comment earlier about how there's sort of like the big shops that everyone knows of with the big brand names, those aren't going anywhere. And then there's the emerging manager. Rex, I'm sure you know Rex very well at Daybreak. He always calls it the artisanal funds, which I've copied and I love. It's the smaller funds. Let's call it sub 300.
That's so Rex. I love that. Like he's so good at storytelling.
He's so good at coining things.
Yeah.
I'm like, he
love
knows.
It.
He's such a good marketer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of competition now, to your point, at that like artisanal fund stage. And we all you say you want to be the first and like most important call for founders. We also want to be that. Now, check sizes often actually can be quite collaborative for like funds 1 and 2. So you can actually have like a couple first calls. But how do you think about making types stand out when you have a Rex? You have someone like us. You've got a million other great folks starting funds. What's like the pitch? And I'm sure your LPs hear this a lot. But like what's like the pitch for why someone would pick like a type over another artisanal smaller fund? Because I agree with your pitch about needing a type and a Thrive or a type and an Andreessen 1,000%. I couldn't agree with you more. But type versus the others, like what's that pitch?
Yeah, I'm curious your pitch as well. Look, again, we want to be that first call for founders, and I think that the way that we can earn that right is by doing whatever we possibly can to show up for founders. For us proactively, I think we have a really, really strong combination of 3 things. The first we already talked about, and I think it's probably the most important, we're just likable, right? And, I have a way that I can massage that, right, when talking to LPs, but I think at the end of the day, we have
high NPS.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like this is a people business at the end of the day. And if someone's like, dude, like Terri's just really cool and really smart, like I'm just going to make some room for her. The number of times that has been the reason why I've gone on a cap table.
Totally.
It has been enough times that I was comfortable starting my own fund, right? Like that was, I think, a really, really important thing to understand. The next is that we have experience, right? Like I worked at a really big fund. I know what a good deal looks like. I know what it looks like to be around all of these other players that are in the space and how to position yourself in a way so that you can be compelling to them in the short term and the long term, which is a little bit different from, your artisanal family office, if you will, who's like, hey, I'll just write you a check. Good luck, right? What does it mean to actually have someone who will write you a check, who can also say, hey, we actually understand the venture landscape very deeply. Let's work together collaboratively to figure out how you can really win in this market. And so I think that experience is really important. And then the final piece, we invest in software. We love software. We're product people. We are a technical product-led firm and fund. And so I studied computer science. We've done a lot of very, very hands-on work for our founders, going back to Soraya and Hags. At a point in time, we were in like the weekly product meetings with the team and the weekly design meetings with the team, because it's really helpful. Again, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. What does it mean to have someone who is technical and product-led and knows how to build and ship products, but isn't actually in the day-to-day of the actual building of the company, that can give you feedback and can give you advice, and who is, of course, equally as aligned in helping you win. And so I think that combination is what really makes us unique. We're super likable. We have that institutional foundation and we have that technical sort of product lens. I think that being able to do that for a relatively small check on a cap table is really, really compelling for founders.
I agree. LPs, listen up.
Yes.
Listen up.
Listen up.
Listen up. No, I love that. And you didn't mention this, but I'm just going to throw another thing your way. You know, you saw that, to that second point, you saw institutional venture at GV. But to your third point about being technical and product led, you actually saw like institutional product vision, product leading, product management at Twitter. And so that's also part of it, is like you've seen institutional on the venture side and on the operating side, which I actually think there isn't a lot of that. There's a lot of people who've done like the 0 to 1 operating and seen things like really hit scale. Let's call it 0 to 100. And then there's some people who have done the more like institutional venture thing, but you've got a nice blend.
Totally. And I think even with Twitter, you know, when I was there, I worked on the home timeline team. So it was the core product. And so I know what it looks like to ship a product, to have millions of people yelling at you all day because of it, to have millions of people really excited and happy with you because of it, to roll something out and roll it back, to run experiments. Like that was the work that I did when I was there. And so, yeah, I think that being able to have that institutional rigor from both a financial and investment side, but also a product side is really compelling. What about you? Yeah. Like, how do you think about this?
Oh, that's for another time.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
another time. What I will say is it's a lot of what you said. I think for us, it's a little bit less on the institutional side. I think it's definitely more on the being likable side. I think that's so much of it. And, you know, having your founders like you. Yeah. Like, not only other VCs who share deals with you, but having your founders like you. And I think it's owning a lane. Like, I think your lane is being technical and product-led and having this, like, you know, insane background at GV. Mine is more on the marketing, storytelling, brand, content, and that's like non-technical founders. Totally. And that's our lane. Yeah. And so I think what it actually is just knowing what you're really good at, knowing what you can underwrite better than anyone else, and then just rocking with it and not needing to be like, I'm not going to look at what you're doing and be like, oh my God, Terry's doing the most amazing thing. I'm just going to now copy that. It's like, no, it's got to be authentically Erica. It's got to be authentically Terri.
Totally.
And that's what makes the next great firms, is like when it is so aligned with your background. You know?
I sometimes wonder, I mean, I love that. And I also think that there are very clear opportunities for overlap. Like, I think a lot about my most technical founders. A lot of them need a lot of support on the storytelling side. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine whether that's from me or from you, right? Like we could work together, team up. Yeah, exactly. To your point around like, especially with check sizes, especially with funds 1 and 2, there's a little bit more room for folks to team up. But I also think that when it comes to supporting founders in a way that is truly authentic to you, it sounds cheesy, but it speaks directly to this idea of like, are you likable? Because if you know yourself, if you just show up as you are and you connect with founders, they're going to like that and they're going to ultimately want you on your cap table. And so a part of me wonders, you know, I get why LPs ask, you know, like, what is your unique sort of positioning? But if I were an LP, I would just talk to the founders, right? Like, I oftentimes think that, like, those are the ones who can tell the story better than even we can, because they are the ones who experience it and can speak, I think, most closely to all of the things that we do all day, every day to try and show up for them.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's this one legendary story I'll tell you quickly, and then we'll get into our lightning round.
Yeah.
So Alan Patrikoff obviously started Greycroft, not GC, Greycroft, and now runs a cool firm, Primetime Partners. People ask him, you know, how do you get LPs to write you checks into all these firms? Now he's doing this really interesting with Primetime. He's doing like a lot of care economy, aging, longevity stuff. It's a totally new strategy than Greycroft, obviously. And what he does is he literally prints out like a list of, you know, let's call it 4 or 5 pages of all the names and like the emails and phone numbers of every founder he's ever backed. And he just hands them the list and he's like, call whoever.
I love.
And I'm like, mic drop.
I love.
Like, that's it. Like, that's literally it. And, you know, when you do, I mean, you have to be a legend like him to, like, not answer any questions and just hand a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the vibe. Like,
totally.
You know, hand them a piece of paper of every founder you've backed and be like, what makes me so great, what's so special? Like, talk to literally anyone I've ever backed. There's not one person I'm taking off this list because, like, integrity and reputation is so high. So anyway, I thought that was, like, a legendary story. And I was like, that's what I want to be one day.
I think the coolest part of that story is that it is literally every single person that I've ever backed. Like, I imagine there's versions of this that you might hear from other people who are very selective, right? Like, here's my reference list, but being like, hey, there's no point in even talking to me about this. Talk to 100% of the people I've ever given a check to. That's so badass. I love it.
So badass.
We should do that.
I know, we should do that. I'm like, I might start that now and it'll have 25 names.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
I love it. If you work in venture or startups, you know the constant juggling act. Replying to messages from co-investors, founders, LPs, customers, and teammates all hitting your personal number. I know this very well. We all hand out our cell, which means your EA can't help an iMessage, and important threads get buried. That's why I'm very excited about Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's built for founders and investors like us who want communication that feels personal but stays organized. Quo gives you a dedicated business line on your existing cell phone. And if you already have a business number, you can bring it with you for free. Plus, you'll get call summaries, transcripts, and an AI voice agent called Sona that can answer and schedule when you're offline. We're actually cooking up something fun with the Quo team right now and using that same voice AI tech in a new way for our firm. More soon, but it's a great reminder that you can use voice AI to stay top of mind of your customers' needs. Quo is trusted by over 90,000 businesses and rated .1 on G2 for customer satisfaction. You can get 20% off your first 3 months at quo.com/trailblazers. That's quo.com/trailblazers. So I've actually used Gusto at 3 different companies, and every time it's been such a relief. It's simple, it's reliable, and my paycheck was always on time, no drama. And unlike the big clunky payroll systems out there, Gusto is online payroll and benefit software specifically built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. For smaller startups in particular, I have found that it's the most affordable and easy to set up option, and it's the one that we recommend to all of our startups at our firm. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/trailblazers and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/trailblazers. One more time, gusto.com/trailblazers. Okay, so let's get into our lightning round.
Okay,
we call them Trailblazer trade-offs.
Okay.
Answer whatever comes to mind. I might push you for more on some.
Okay.
Okay, book in hand or podcast in ears?
Book in hand.
We already went over this.
Yeah.
You're a reader.
I'm a book girl.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Yeah,
okay. For sure.
Is it because you really like getting up early or like going to bed early? Like, what's the...
I like getting up early. I'm like a big wake up, workout. What are the 5 things that I can get done really quickly? I will say that I think sometimes when you say you're a morning person, people think that you're like all chipper and cheery first thing in the morning. That's not me. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone, but I'm really good at just like knocking stuff out at 6 a.m.
Love it. And it's so nice being in New York because you're really like ahead of everyone.
Totally.
Yeah. Cooking dinner or ordering in?
Cooking dinner.
Do you have a favorite thing you make?
Not really. I'm a pretty novel cook. My fiance always makes fun of me for this because I'm like, okay, let's cook dinner, and I'm always like searching a new recipe.
Yeah.
My fiance's like, babe, like it's fun. Like you can literally just make chicken and rice
the
or
thing
whatever.
from last week. Yeah.
But this might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't love takeout.
Whoa.
I know.
I can't relate. I'm so sorry.
I know. I mean, I do. I eat a lot of takeout just because I'm a human being, right? Like I'm busy or whatever. But I will take a home cooked meal over takeout like any day.
Yeah, it definitely tastes better, but the convenience.
Of course.
It's hard.
Of course, yeah.
Wait, fiance. Quick pause. I didn't. Wow.
She
Wait, we
got
both have emerald.
engaged. Oh my God.
Also just got engaged.
Oh my God, congrats.
When are you getting married?
Wait, we're literally like
we're
the
living
same
parallel
person.
lives.
Yeah, we are. We just need to do all the same deals and like we need to do all the things.
Yeah.
So I got engaged in August and we'll probably get married like early 2027. I'm curious how you're thinking about this. I was like, I can't think about an actual wedding for like 4 to 5 months because my wedding is this firm, you know, like that's where all my time is spent.
I totally hear you. I also feel like my baby is my firm. There's a lot of things to talk about offline to unpack.
Probably with some therapists too.
Yeah.
Some coaches.
I may or may not have really weighed like fundraising and deploying timelines with when I'm getting married.
I love.
And that may or may not have like affected some people's opinions. Because I was like, no, sorry, this is all going to revolve around the fund.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So I have a lot of opinions on it. We're going to do fall.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, but it's, it's never the right time this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so we'll discuss. It's never the right time.
Well, congrats.
Thank you. Congrats to you.
Thank you.
Similar life phases.
Yeah,
I love
it.
Okay, VC or bootstrapping?
Ooh. this is going to be ironic. Bootstrapping.
Tell me more.
You know, I love a zig when others zag. And I think VC is so sexy right now. And I think that there are a number of businesses that don't need to be venture backed, that are just raising venture dollars or attempting to raise venture dollars because it's the thing to do. I think it shows grit. I think it shows like a clear sense of perseverance and almost like, I don't know, this like hands-on creative thinking to say, I'm not going to do the thing that everyone's going to do, and I'm just going to try and figure this out day one. And, you know, if you crush it at bootstrapping, you can probably crush it at fundraising later on.
Totally. That's what I always say. It's like if you build a really great business, the money will come.
Exactly.
Whether it's VCs, whether it's otherwise, the money will come. It's funny also, a lot of VCs I have on say bootstrapping.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's also this time in our world. It's a lot of capital has been concentrated into a very small number of companies, and there's this definitely like with like the vibe coding and vibe marketing, it's like, can you build something small with a small team on your own without venture?
Totally.
So there's a lot of conversation, as you know. Networking dinner or big conference?
Ooh, I'm going to say big conference because the networking dinner can nest within the big conference.
Oh.
And it's a more concentrated, efficient way of getting a lot of networking done in a short period of time.
So the networking dinner at the big conference.
Yeah, like do, 3 networking dinners 3 or 4 nights in a row, and then go get dinner with your friends for a month, like
I love it. I know.
balance
I think
it out.
those dinners are such a good way to get like the 10 minutes of FaceTime with all these people that you otherwise would need like an hour coffee with.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally hear you.
And I think the thing that I've been doing lately, so we have our prototype event series, founder series,
which
at
I've
Capital,
been, which are the best. Yeah.
And we've recently been doing breakfasts instead of dinners because I think that breakfasts are just a little bit of a lighter lift for people. Maybe the people who aren't morning folks, not quite, but they typically go a little bit faster. They're more chill, and there's so many dinners that I think that people are getting a little dinnered out.
I love the breakfast vibe. Yeah, we did one on like a Friday, and I was like, this is exactly how I want to end my week.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah. Come to the next.
I know, I will. Yeah. I was out of town the last one, but I will.
Good.
Hire slow or fire fast?
I struggle with this one. Okay, if I had to pick, right now I'm feeling hire slow. People ask me this all the time. I'm curious for you as a fellow solo GP.
Yeah.
People are like, why don't you have a partner? And I'm like, it's kind of like asking why aren't you married yet, right? Like it's a really, really big personal and professional joint decision to build a company with someone. And if you're going to do it, it needs to be the right person. And so, extrapolating that to hiring, I think that especially in the early days of building a business, you want to be very, very thoughtful about who those early partners are. Even if it doesn't work out in the long run, like life is long, but it's very, very transformational who is there from the early stages. And so I think taking your time as opposed to wasting cycles on firing fast is probably the way to go.
Couldn't agree with you more. And especially if you want to build something enduring like we do, where you also don't need giant teams.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if you are like, crushing your sales targets, you're a startup, things are going so fast, you do kind of have to like hire quickly to sort of meet demand. But in our world in particular, I think that marriage is a great example. Like you absolutely want to be thoughtful and, just date for a long time.
Just date for a long time.
I have like my short
have
list
fun,
of people
kids.
I'm dating. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Okay, 10 small wins or 1 big moonshot?
Ooh, 1 big moonshot.
Okay.
I'm bad with the like celebrating small wins. Like I'm always thinking about the next thing. And I think by nature of that, I'm always thinking about the next big thing. I know for me, I feel the most accomplished. I feel the most proud. I feel the most excited when there's like a big moment. And so, yeah, I think my mind just kind of leans more towards that than the smaller things.
Yeah. We're also in the business of moonshots with venture.
Exactly.
And I'm excited for your big moonshot announcement this year.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 more. Being early or being right?
Ooh. Okay. Try not to overthink. I think being early we are in the business of, we're uniquely positioned to be as early as possible, which can afford you not being right all the time.
Because not everyone knows this, but you can take 20 shots and as long as one works out, you're okay.
Exactly. And the earlier you are, the one that works out has that moonshot outcome.
Totally. Versus like a company's already working, you invest, well, they can only go up a certain amount from there.
So much, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, never post on socials again or never fundraise another dollar again.
Ooh. I mean, never fundraise a dollar again, if that were possible, right? Yeah, I think both have pros and cons. I think I've had more fun with posting on socials, despite how, toxic and the algorithm and yada yada, we can go down that rabbit hole. I've had more fun historically posting than I have with fundraising.
That's fully fair.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, enough said. AI overhyped or underhyped?
Overhyped.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're probably in a bubble. Caveat, by definition, one can never know if we're in a bubble, but the amount of dollars raised, the amount of groupthink that is happening, the amount of AI slop think pieces that are on the internet, I think is really just showing that there's a lot more excitement, and that excitement is growing at a pace that I think is outweighing the actual development and impact. Not to say that both aren't incredible.
Yeah.
But, I'm a big Buffett head, right? And be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. As much as I understand that in our careers and in our roles, we have to pay to play. Like, if you're not investing in AI, you're just not investing, which is not, on the table. I also think that you want to find the edge cases. And it's much harder to find edge cases in AI right now because it is so hyped.
I totally hear you. I'm also a big Buffett head. And as you know, one of the things he talks a lot about is invest in what you understand, because there's a lot of ways to make money. And so I think there's also something to be said for yes, if everyone's zigging and doing the AI thing, there's a lot of other things you understand that are not AI where you can also make a lot of money. Like him doing the Diet Cokes and the Seas Candies investments when everyone else is doing crypto.
Totally.
There's something to be said for just owning your lane and not needing to be doing the hot thing all the time.
Yep.
Accepting that it's part of the future, but it's not maybe where you're going to be investing.
Totally.
Terri, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. And I'm so excited for us to do more collabs and to invest together and to do all the things because I think there's just a lot more room for folks like us to be deploying.
I agree. Can you tell everyone where they can find you and find type? Let's say a founder's listening and they're like, I do need Terri on my cap table. How do they find you?
You could just Google Terri Burns. The SEO is pretty good. No.
The SEO is actually really good.
Yeah, which was not intentional. Typecapital.com, and then you can find me at TC Burning on all of the things.
Great. We'll link it all.
Great.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
On Trailblazers, we're always talking about multiplying your impact, and that's exactly what Athena helps you do. Athena pairs you with a world-class executive assistant who becomes a true force multiplier for your business and your life. Working with my Athena assistant has been transformative. Gab was instrumental in raising Park Rangers Capital's fund in ways that I could have never imagined an assistant could contribute. From closing six-figure checks to identifying new LPs we should meet to matching my tone perfectly in follow-up emails. He's elevated my capacity as a founder by giving me more time to focus on the highest leverage work. Athena isn't just about scheduling meetings, it's about unlocking leverage. Hundreds of founders, investors, and executives trust Athena to free their time and scale their impact. Athena is offering our listeners $2,000 off for their first year of service and priority onboarding. And you want that, trust me, there's a very long wait list. When you're ready to multiply your impact and free up time for the things only you can do, go to athenago.me/Erica-Wenger. That's athenago.me/ERICA-WENGER. Thanks so much for listening to the Trailblazers podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can also support our work by sharing it with a friend or leaving a quick review. It helps more contrarian builders find us. For more on Park Rangers Capital and our community of elephant founders, head to parkrangerscap.com or find me online at Erica_Wenger. Until next time, keep trailblazing.